Alright guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different. By that I mean pretty different. So as you probably already read by the title, I made my own SCP. It's called SCP-6032, the Persistent FP. This SCP was made about a year ago. The scientific department was doing a contest for certain privileges, such as Lost Souls protocols, where you could test without a rationale for a day. And what it was you submit an SCP you create, and then the winners get those protocols. I think I got 4th place in it. It was just all inside jokes and it was pretty funny. This SCP is a Site Delta inside joke, as I like to call it. So before we begin, please subscribe. We are almost at 200. We're 6 subscribers away. Like come on guys. And I love you. If you are already subscribed, man, you're a real one. So let's read off this SCP. Now to begin. SCP-6032. Item number SCP-6032, the Persistent FP. Object class Euclid. Containment. SCP-6032 is allowed to roam freely around the facility with level 0 clearance. SCP-6032 is to be treated like a level 0 personnel with a bunk and normal mealtimes. Talking to SCP-6032 is prohibited past curfew and before morning, as it can be a disruption to others sleeping. Description: SCP-6032 is a Caucasian male that stands at approximately 6 feet tall, weighing about 180 pounds. It has slightly less than average muscle mass, but is in fairly good shape. The Persistent FP has dark hair with green-blue eyes. SCP-6032 very easily blends in with other Foundation personnel. Even though the SCP seems like a normal Foundation personnel at first glance, it does not take long to realize what is special about him. The SCP can only talk on the radio. He will constantly have a radio, also known as SCP-6032-1, out in his right hand, so that he will never have to stop talking on the radio. It appears that the FP could also talk without the radio, but he seems to lack the mental capability of putting it away after being asked several times. The SCP can also access any frequency, including encrypted ones. Along with this, the SCP seems to have a mental note of what is happening on every frequency. Actual conversations from Site Delta seen above. This SCP has been seen yelling at another Foundation personnel on occasion, but has never been seen committing a violent crime. The SCP does not fight against security and is very obedient most of the time. Several attempts to take away SCP-6032-1 have been successful. However, the SCP simply pulls out another instance of SCP-6032-1, leaving the old instance classified as SCP-6032-2. It is unknown where SCP-6032-1 comes from. However, there are many theories. See addendum theories. Origin: SCP-6032 was found in Mall, Nebraska, USA. The SCP was found by the head of mall security when conducting a job interview for SCP-6032. The head of security was very confused when he realized the man was talking on the radio, which somehow had the right frequency. This is when he asked the strange man how he did it. The SCP replied with, "What do you mean?" and other things that showed there was something different about the man. That is when the security guard decided to call a local investigator and end the interview. After some investigation, the Foundation was alerted. The SCP was then brought to Site Delta. Addendum: SCP-6032-1. SCP-6032-1 is a radio SCP-6032 carries. SCP-6032-1 has never been seen in SCP-6032's left hand. SCP-6032-1 can easily be taken away by another person without any consequences. However, SCP-6032 will just pull out another radio. Addendum: SCP-6032-2. SCP-6032-2 is the transformed version of SCP-6032-1. After SCP-6032-1 has left SCP-6032's hand, SCP-6032 will refuse to use that instance of SCP-6032-1 again, leaving it as SCP-6032-2. SCP-6032-2 is used by several other FP. It is commonly given out to new FP because it is easy to get. SCP-6032-2 works as a normal radio. Addendum theories. Researcher Theodore's theory. It seems as if the SCP doesn't understand that he is talking on a radio. He seems completely oblivious that he even has a radio. I believe that is subconscious behavior and that he doesn't even think about it. He just does it. I believe that at night, in his bunk, an unknown hole opens up between his feet, allowing a portal to a different dimension to open up, giving him another radio. This would explain the advanced ability to know about other frequencies. Senior researcher Brooks' theory. I have been observing SCP-6032 for about a week now, and I think I have an idea of what is going on. I believe that the SCP creates the SCP-6032-1 instances with the iron in his blood. I think he has the ability to concentrate certain minerals from his blood to create the radios. Additional notes. 1. SCP-6032-1 will always look like the newest model of radio in stores. 2. SCP-6032 is classified as Euclid because it is unknown where the radio comes from. Well, there you have it. That was SCP-6032 for you. I hope you guys enjoyed. I made this SCP all on my own. It took a couple of hours, but I really enjoyed writing it. I had a ton of fun with it, and I even took these pictures. I mean, if you enjoyed it, subscribe. More Site Delta content coming, maybe even some R Breach. I will keep making videos. Summer's about to be here, so don't miss out. Click that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.